Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Hello, and welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson. Hey, I have something for you. I am now partnering with Care Of. They are a subscription service that makes it easy to get vitamins, protein powders, and more personalized just for you and delivered straight to your door. And in a little bit, I'm going to give you a promo code so you can get your vitamins from Care Of at 30% off. Now, there's a website. I'm going to give that to you right now. TakeCareOf.com. That's TakeCareof.com. And you enter promo code Relationship30. And that'll get you 30% off your first order from Care Of. Okay, now to the topic. I'm going to be talking about older men and younger women. Now, it's something that we've seen a lot in our society, and it's never really been questioned, and I'm not necessarily going to question it here. I'm just going to give some information about it that I was asked to comment on this particular subject by somebody who wondered a bit about it. I did a podcast a little bit ago on younger men and older women. And the reason I had picked that particular topic is because, again, I had someone who had asked me about that, and I thought I'd make light of some of the interesting dynamics that happen with those relationships. And for a lot of people, it's something that they have been curious about, and there are still some mysteries surrounding some of these pairings. And whereas we typically see younger men and older women and think of it as a bit of an anomaly, now more and more we see that is very common. So what was even more common prior to that was younger women and older men. It was just something that was assumed. Culturally, it's always been okay. But I had somebody who had asked me about this particular pairing. Now, the significance of this is, now this younger woman is about 36 and the guy is about 20 years older than she is. So he's 56. He's well established, and I see that there's an attraction there, but I'm going to talk about this a little bit. And if just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to highlight a lot of the reasons why these pairings work. And if there's ever been any doubt as far as if it would work, relationships are relationships. We find people that we're attracted to, and we just get into the relationship. A lot of times we don't necessarily dig down into the details until something starts to go wrong, and then we can sort of pick up where, all right, this didn't work, that didn't work, and we understand it because so we sort of do an analysis post-relationship. Now, some people have it that they know enough about themselves, so it's really not so much looking at a person because of their age. That's just something that they happen to be, but the relationship part works. Now, I'm talking about emotional maturity, because when we start thinking about chronological age as far as a reason to date someone, a lot of times we miss what's really going on, because I think emotional age really makes the distinction as to how well people are going to be compatible. Because if you're a person who has always been responsible and you meet someone else who you are attracted to, and let's say it's mutual, then let's say this individual is significantly older than you are. A lot of times what helps in that attraction is we're talking about life's experience. And a younger age person who has had a lot of responsibility has probably experienced a lot of these kinds of things that an older person would have experienced. So the conversation could be about taking care of someone or being responsible for a business or, something of that nature, something that really forces you to grow. Whereas in a lot of cases, when people don't have a lot of emotional maturity, then you think about the age different relationships. Sometimes they just don't work out. Again, there might be some physical attraction there, but when we're talking something a little more in depth, something that's really going to give us some staying power, we really need to be looking at the emotional maturity. And there's a number of ways in which we can sort of use indicators of that. Like I say, chronological age, that would be your actual number of years that you've been on the planet, is but one small portion of it. Because again, we're talking emotional maturity. And if you can imagine what it's like, if you're a young person and you have a lot of intellectual knowledge, you may feel like you stand out and it may be difficult for you to blend in with a lot of people. But if you have that intellectual knowledge and find yourself communicating with people significantly older than you, and let me give you an illustration here. When I was a kid, what was exciting to me was, airplanes and rockets and things like that. And a lot of other kids sort of had that interest, but they weren't really in depth about that. But older people, and I'm going to say people who had the opportunity to experience things in their early 20s, they were much more fun for me to talk to. Now, I'm not saying that I had a romantic interest in anybody like that, but it just allowed me to express myself, to have conversations, to learn. And this is a pattern that gets repeated over and over in life. And then you find yourself literally seeking things that model that. So see, in my particular case, I would just give you an illustration of something that started when I was very young. And as this chronological thing moves along, so does your emotional maturity. And so there is the genesis for how some of these things begin. And as you think about who you are attracted to, maybe at some point in time in your life, you were attracted to someone that was significantly older. And by significant, let me give you an age range. I'm talking, 10, 12, maybe 15 years older, because if you're, say, for example, 20 years old and somebody is 12 to 15 years older than that, you're looking at somebody that could be 32 to 35 years old. Now, at that stage in life, that doesn't seem like an unusual pairing, because we can think back to generations ago where you had partners, women who were younger than the men that they were associated with. They could have been 10, 12 years difference. It really wasn't thought of as being significant. And in many cases, it still isn't. But if we move that timeline forward, let's say we take a woman who's 55 and she's going to date a guy that's 10 to 15 years older than she is. Now she's dating a guy that's 65 to 70. When in most cases, if you're thinking about that 70-year-old being closer to his end of life and maybe quality of life issues might come up, then you get into these discussions about how much longevity people are going to have. And, these can be difficult conversations to have, but at least we can think about that in our own place and wonder, okay, what do we expect our life to be like in, say, 10, 12, 13 years? So that at that point becomes a very interesting question when you're dating somebody older. But let's slide that timeline back. Let's go back to somebody who's in their 20s or 30s when you're dating someone maybe 10, 12, 15 years older. You still have a lot of quality of life left, and there are things to look forward to. So when we're going back to that emotional maturity, you can be 20 years old, but if you've had a lot of life's experience, that person who's 30, 32, 35 may be very attractive because you can find a lot of common ground. And maybe in the case of having conversations about things that are relative to your age range, and I mean chronologically, say if you're in your 20s, the kind of music you might have grown up or listened to in terms of your peers is going to be a little different than the person who's considerably older. But you can mitigate that by sharing or having an open mind about the kind of things you want to share, and done in a very nice and polite way. It seems to really bolster, each individual and feeling really connected in that relationship. See, that is very, very special. And these are the kind of bonds that can last for years and years and years and years. Hey there, I'm just about at the end of my first segment, but let me share something with you that I think is very important. I am now partnering with Care Of. Now, Care Of is a subscription service that makes it easy to get vitamins, protein powders, and more personalized just for you, and they are delivered straight to your door. So look, I want you to spring into a healthy routine, and with the winter blues coming to an end, it is finally time to get back into a routine that empowers you to feel your healthiest. So give yourself the support this season with a boost. Now, whether you're looking for energy, better sleep to maintain stress, or something else to help you feel your best, Care Of's online quiz will help you learn exactly what you need. Now, Care Of's fun online quiz asks you about your diet, your health goals, lifestyle choices, and it only takes about 5 minutes to find out about your personally, scientifically backed recommendation for vitamins, protein powders, and more. So look, the online quiz is now new and improved to learn if you're getting enough protein, fiber, and good fats to determine if you could benefit from Care Of's new protein powders. Look, it can be really hard to know what vitamins and supplements you should be taking, but Care Of makes it easy to find out what you need to be your healthiest because they deliver daily vitamins and supplement packs along with protein and more, all customized to your recommendations, so you're only taking what you really need. Your personalized Care Of subscription box gets delivered right to your door every month with personalized daily packs, which are great for a busy on-the-go lifestyle. And they even say your name on them. Look, Care Of's delicious nutrient-packed quick stick powders can be added to your monthly delivery for an extra cost, but it's an easy boost whenever you need it. So I'd like you to experience the Care Of difference. It's because Care Of now offers protein powders which are available in individual packets for on the go and in tubs, and they're all personalized to your fitness goals and dietary preferences. So because Care Of makes sure that you're getting vitamins and protein from the best sources backed by honest guidance and transparency. See, Care Of's new protein powders have clean labels and are made with organic ingredients like cocoa and Himalayan pink sea salt or whey from free-range grass-fed cows from Ireland. So vegan and vegetarian supplement options are available to match your dietary needs. You can track your progress with the Care Of app and earn rewards when you remember to take your vitamins. See, how good is that? I think that's great. So here's the thing. For your 30% off your first order of Care Of, I want you to go to their website. It's takecareof.com and enter promo code relationship30. That gives you 30% off your first order. Remember, to get 30% off, you go to takecareof.com and enter relationship30. Look, one more thing. I took the personalized online quiz and have my own supplement packs. And I'll tell you, not only was it easy, but they made it happen fast. I got it in the mail right away. So remember, go to takecareof.com and enter promo code relationship30 for your 30% off your first order. Hello and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson, and I'm talking about older men and younger women. Now, the topic itself isn't new in terms of whether it's existed, because it's been around for a long, long time, and it's actually more common. Just a note, I did a podcast on younger men, older women a short time ago, and I was asked to talk about this particular subject of older men and younger women. And so here's something to think about. Now, women actually have a longer lifespan than men, and that's not new information. But when you think about this sort of pairing, and in one of the examples I gave, I talked about a woman who, say, maybe 50, and she's dating a guy 15 to 20 years older than she is. And, of course, now men some men are doing a better job of taking care of themselves, but with men generally having a shorter lifespan than a woman, when you think about that particular pairing that I've just given as an illustration, you wonder how much in the way of quality of life is left. So speaking on averages, there's not a lot of time there. And one often wonders, okay, well, what's the attraction? And what you have to look at, and this is just with respect to how people have matured and how they've come along. And I talk about emotional maturity, and this really beats chronological age every time. Because when you think about the kinds of things that people gather or what causes them to connect with someone, it is usually something very specific. So you take a younger person who has, say, studied, let's say they're very academic, and they've studied a lot of things. Let's say they've studied history. Well, if they're attracted to an older person, maybe that older person actually lived through that history. And now you have a connection of a person that has an interest and it could be more than just a passing interest. And you have a person that's lived it, and the conversation starts there. And as you find these things that you have in common, that's where the attraction is. And you could see this all the time. We often wonder, well, what is it about those two individuals that they're together? Whether it's older or younger, or, maybe they have, maybe culturally, their physical appearance is like, wow, I never imagined so-and-so being with that person. Well, yeah, maybe not. But if one person has a lot of curiosity and this other person can fulfill or fill the void of what that curiosity is about, see, there's something there that brings you together. And it may be for a short time. It may be a lot longer. But again, this is the genesis of where these things begin. And you have to have an open mind, especially when you're tackling something like this. And people who are emotionally mature tend to do a better job of that. They're not necessarily driven by social norms or what may be perceived as that. They think outside the box, and that's what actually helps them reach a little higher than, say, someone else. If you're being dictated to by other people, being told what's okay, and decide that that's just what you're going to do, then yeah, you're probably going to stay more middle of the road. Now, that's not to say that these younger men, older women relationships, younger women, older men relationships don't have issues, because again, it's a relationship. It's simply that. But what we're pointing out here is the significance of the age difference, and that's the chronological thing. But remember, I'm talking about emotional maturity. That, I think, swings this into more of, how different are the two people. With the outer trappings, now, let me cover that a little bit. For some people, the physical appearance makes all the difference in the world. And if you're one of those who's very visual and that's your attraction, not everybody's wired that way, but if you're one of those that sees somebody and you see their physical features and decide that is something that you can't get past, well then, if being a certain age doesn't appeal to you, if you think somebody who's 15 or 20 years older than you is unattractive just because maybe they have grayer hair, or maybe they have age lines or something that doesn't appeal to you, well then this kind of person probably isn't someone that's going to be interesting to you. Or maybe they would if it was just a phone buddy. But when you've lived life, you tend to look at those things that I just described, the lines, as years of experience, and that can be very, very attractive to a lot of people. So there are those in that camp, and they would find something like this interesting and probably more likely to be doable. So you take a relationship like this, and I think one of the things that also becomes important is communication. That's always been a cornerstone of good relationships. And in this type of pairing, communication definitely takes center stage. And it is natural that as a person gets older, there are a number of things that diminish with age. Sometimes it's mental and sometimes it is physical. But you make that determination down the road and see if it still works for you. I think emotionally, if there is still a strong connection, then, these partnerships will last until, one of them passes away. So there is a lot to be said for these kind of relationships. Look, I'm going to take another break here and I'll come right back and wrap up the segment. Stay tuned.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. I'm John Johnson, talking about older men and younger women. As it is, these relationship pairings, there's nothing new. This has been throughout time, and it's usually the other one, that is younger men and older women, that gets a lot of attention. Well, I'm not talking about that one this time, because I talked about that in another podcast, and you can kind of search the library of my podcasts and you'll find that one. So I was just giving myself a little plug there. But in this particular episode, because I'm talking about older men and younger women, let me just break it down into something here. And what every relationship needs is, number one, to have good communication. Because any couple that I have spoken to, there is a lot that goes on in the relationships over time. You have your ups and downs, but being able to problem solve, and I don't care how old you are, you're going to spend enough time in conflict that if you don't know how to problem solve, it doesn't really matter what your age is. If you can't do that part, then you're going to have a rocky road ahead. So that's important. You need to have respect for your partner. You need to trust in them. And I think one of the reasons we get involved with someone is because we want somebody to care about us. We want them to give us the benefit of the doubt. We want to be able to be vulnerable, tell our deepest, darkest secrets to them, and know that they will hold us in high esteem, even if we tell them something bad about us, because that's just who we are as human beings. Now, that is irrespective of age. The fact that age becomes a factor is merely a chronological thing. Now, emotionally, we can make all kinds of adjustments that can throw age right out the window. Just like I was saying, it's about knowing someone you can trust. It's about being able to resolve conflict. And those things happen with people no matter how old you are. But the thing about age, what it does is it does introduce some factors, and I'm talking about longevity, time on this earth. So if you're dating a person that's older, then you have to face the fact that they may have age-related issues, whether it's the fact that they don't move as fast as they used to, or maybe they don't move as fast as you'd like them to, and you might be in the role of caretaker at some point in time in your life. If it's a relationship where you're 25 or 30 and you're looking at someone that's 15 or 20 years older, then that age range, that spread is not does not put the older person in a place where you're going to have to take care of them right now. But if you move that timeline up 10 or 12 years, then I would say the quality of life issues become something that you want to think about. And this is where the communication thing is going to happen. So you might be a little more free thinking, and you both have separate lives, so to speak. You don't necessarily have to have someone underfoot all the time. And that may be something that you enjoy about those types of pairings. So if it's just having the relationship as a boyfriend and girlfriend, or really close partners in that shape or that way, maybe you're not married and you don't necessarily have the day-to-day interaction like that if you are a couple living under the same roof, because then you do see these things as they happen on a daily basis. You see your partner slow down. You see that decline. You see the age-related diseases that happen. And like I say, being realistic about that, being in conversation about that, you can still have a great life with a person. Because like I said, when you get back to it, it's about being loved, about being appreciated. And something that also goes along with a person who's older that you might be attracted to, they could be well established financially. And that works out when, the two of you decide to become a couple. And if you're going to be the benefactor of a relationship, a pairing like that, that may be something that sets you up for life. And, it's all over the board with something like that. And that's just one of those things that comes into play for some people. I have talked to women and men who have had a significant other that has passed away. And I have heard stories of devotion that would make you cry of joy, because they've learned so much. They've been able to experience so much in their life because that other person who had experience was willing to share what they had, and they did it out of love. So there's a lot going for these kinds of relationships. Now, and I'm going to bring this into the picture here. If children become involved, let's say you are in a relationship with someone that is significantly older and you have children together. Now, we look at some of these things and say, well, if this person is 50 years old and they're having a child now, by the time the person is grown, they're an adult, that parent is going to be 68. And you might cringe at that from time to time, but it really depends on the individual, because necessarily speaking, 68 may be a large number chronologically, but if you have the gift of good health and you're taking care of yourself, you could live a long, long time. And the benefit that someone gets from having a partner or having a parent who's older, probably a little more skilled at teaching, at communicating, the kinds of things that tend to make better people. Because I admit, having been a young parent, one of the things that I benefited from is that I was young. I was able to run with my kids, but I didn't necessarily have a lot of experience in how to raise kids. So I made mistakes. I think that I would certainly do different now if I were to have, young children all over again. But if you're older, then you've seen these kinds of things, and you probably have a way of figured out as to how you would raise kids, or at least be instrumental in shaping a person's behavior. See, these are all wonderful things that someone could benefit from. So being older isn't a bad thing. It is what it is. And you bring the best of who you are to the relationship, and you'll just see how things work out. So if you're attracted to someone who has a significant age gap compared to your own, then as I've outlined, these are some of the things to look into, to be in conversation about. And when you have the conversation, you may not have an answer right at this moment. And maybe simply the fact that you've brought it up and are going to give some time to think about how that's going to impact you. Maybe right now the thing to do is to be with that person and to see how they are, see how you're treated, see how they handle things in life. And if it's something that appeals to you, then I'd say go for it. See what that's like. It's your life. You can make that determination for yourself. And if it's something that doesn't work, well, at least you know. Because what is life if you don't take some risk? You got to be willing to invest in yourself. And when it comes to love, you're going to have to invest in someone. So give it a shot and see what comes of it. At least if you try it out, you won't leave yourself wondering. I'm John Johnson, and this is the Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.